Hi everyone, I want to welcome you to this year's first episode of Tasting with Telly. Today we're going to taste a beautiful medium to full-bodied complex red wine from the region of Rioja. Usually with these tastings I like to do a little geography lesson in wine. So if you take a look at the map, this wine comes from the region of Rioja, and if you look here on the map, we're looking at north central Spain. Not that far from the Bay of Biscayne, but it is a bit of a microclimate in that particular wine region, it does not have the maritime influences. It sits up at an elevation of about 1,500 feet, and it is surrounded by mountain ranges even on the north. So even there's a little mountain range on the north that protects that particular region from the strong coastal winds. And it really creates this little microclimate that is semi-arid, where they can truly ripen grapes to the fullest and make some absolutely delicious wine. So this wine comes from a producer named Bodegas Valdelacierva, and the winemaker is a woman winemaker by the name of Emma Villajos, and she is very passionate about making wine and is really hands-on. Of course, the most important part of these amazing winemakers is in the vineyard. So we're dealing with what I said, like high altitude, old vines. These vines are at least 50 years old, and they're grown in like a bush style, where the vine comes up, creates like these gnarly branches, and they don't get a whole lot of production. So like the amount of grapes per vine the yield is very low. But because the vines are so old, you get some really intense flavors, and therefore, it's worth keeping the vines even though the yield's low, make a better quality wine, and of course, the price is gonna be a little higher. Now this wine, for example, and I'm gonna decant it while I'm telling you a little more about it, is a really fantastic price. I found it at Costco for about $15. You'll find it at other wine shops probably closer to 20, but even at 20, it's a really, really great deal. And there's a lot of care and know-how that goes on into making these wines. If you look at that beautiful color, medium to dark, it looks fairly dark when we decant it. Something to know about when you're buying Rioja wine, you'll see either Crianza, or in this case, Rioja Reserva. And you might even see, I believe that the other denomination is Joven. Joven, which means young. So you often see wines that say, Rioja Joven, and there's very minimal use of oak. If it says Crianza, it's got to be aged at least 1 year, 2 years total, 1 year in oak, 1 year in a bottle. And then for Reserva, it's got to be total aging of 3 years, at least 1 year in oak and 2 years in a bottle, but you could go more oak if you want. So for example, this wine is aged for 24 months in French oak barrique, and then aged an additional year in the bottle prior to release. Now I did decant this because I do believe it stands to aerate to get more complex as it opens up. This wine does have some age. Obviously, they aged it for 3 years prior to release. We're looking at 2016, so we're already looking at about 6 years old, because it's early 2023. Let's give this a taste. So on the nose, I get really rich, medium to dark fruits. So I'm getting like a little bit of blueberry. I'm also getting some cranberry hints. I'm getting some raspberry, cherry, a lot of different of the red fruits, even leaning towards some blueberry. I'm getting some beautiful spice, like cinnamon, and I'm getting a little bit of dusty oak from the French barrique. It's pretty full and gripping on the palate. Get a lot of beautiful tannins, a lot of fruits on top. We're getting a little bit of licorice. We're getting a little bit of blackberry on the palate. Really beautiful acidity to round out the palate, and it's velvety and delicious. So I think this wine is beautiful on its own. I think it'll probably be even better with food. What would you pair this with? If you're a meat eater, I think like a rabbit salmorejo, which is a classic Spanish dish where they braise the rabbit with onions and peppers and paprika. So you have that sweet and savory type of spice, little sweetness from the onions and the spice from the peppers, and serve that over top of rice is pretty classic. What I'm doing tonight with this, since I'm more plant-based, we're doing some onions and some peppers and even some smoked, some smoked peppers, sauteing that, have it with some vegetables like zucchini, onions, and then we're gonna serve that, add maybe some garbanzo beans, and then serve that over some fresh pasta. So there you have it. We're drinking wine from the region of Rioja. You can find this particular producer at Costco for $15. You can find it elsewhere for closer to $20. It's a beautiful wine for the wintertime all the way into spring, and it goes with a lot of different types of food. So hope you enjoy it. Until next time, cheers, chin chin, and siniamas. Enjoy the wine.